So first thing I tell them is role play's over. We're never doing role play again. That kind of gets their attention. I said, but we're going to skill practice. It's just a different, not a name, but a methodology. So what makes training engage where they want to be there is you shouldn't be standing in front of the room lecturing. You should not be telling them a bunch of concepts. You need to get to the point. Tell them this is what we're learning today and why we're learning it. And the why has to be an impact for them in their career. This is going to be good for you if you learn this because you'll get more yeses and a better paycheck or whatever that looks like. So make sure they know that there's something in it for them to learn it. It's not the money. The money's a tool. What are you using the tool for?
Welcome to the $100 Million Mindset, the source for business owners who aspire to scale, grow, and reach their full potential. Whether you're aiming for 5 million, 10 million, or 100 million, your hosts are Alan O'Neill, the Irish plumber, who scaled Abacus Plumbing and Cooling to over 100 million, and Tangerine Tornado, Todd Liles. A coach to high-performing business leaders and the owner of Service Excellence are going to help you think bigger, act smarter, and take your business to the next level.
You can't fix what you don't train, and you can't train what you don't measure. Hey, listener and watcher, in this episode, we're going to get very real about the work of training, what makes it stick, why most companies get it wrong, and how to build a system that actually changes behavior. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Alan O'Neill, and he is the founder of Abacus Plumbing, and I'm also joined by Aaron Behunin. This is part number 2 with Aaron, a professional trainer who has spent years in the trenches working with techs, plumbers, electricians on how to serve customers and themselves at a higher level. Now, we know you love stories, so we are going to swap stories from the field. Some of these stories are hilarious, some of them are awkward, but all the lessons are learned the hard way and have a valuable lesson to go with it. You're also going to hear how Aaron does what he calls the quiet close, his ride-along technique, and how he teaches in the moment. And how Alan once had a tech lock a customer in an attic. This is a very true story. Literally, the technician had had enough, so he locked him in the attic, and Alan had to go over there and tell him to let him out. I can't believe Alan told this story, but it's going to be fun for you to hear. But beneath all of this laughter and hilarity, there's a very powerful truth, which is training fails when it's treated like an event only. It's not an event, it's a system. And real results come from systems, and systems are systems of repetition, feedback, and follow through. Now, Aaron's going to explain why he never calls it role play and why every session needs to be skill practice, and how one simple habit is what he refers to as the exit ticket, which keeps the learning alive after the class. I really like this. And we're going to adopt this at Service Excellence. In fact, we adopted it today in our team training. Now, Alan and I are going to share how reinforcement works in the real world, how dispatch reminders, field follow-ups, and contests make it stick and make everyone want to win. So this episode is a crash course in training for transformation, not just information. So let's dive in. Aaron, what's your funniest ride-along story?
Funniest ride-along. Oh my gosh. Oh, I don't even know. There's so many.
Give us just one that stands
out.
Like
a funny one?
Funny or...
Okay, I'll tell you one I remember because I teach on it a lot. And that's whole being quiet at the close and letting your salesman lose a sale. I don't know your takes on that, but you got to let them lose sometimes, even though you probably could have sold it, right? This guy, he wanted me to go with him and watch him because he struggled to do inspections on the whole house for members. That was his thing he's working on. He's like, Aaron, I think I've got this, man. I've been practicing so much. Come on, coach, let me show you. I go on this plumbing call with him. Best inspection I've ever seen. Homeowners totally engaged, taught her everything. He's an expert, building rapport. He had done the work. It was fantastic. We get to the table and he presents his options, and she basically said yes to the first one. And then he made her listen to the next one. And she's like, no, I really like that one. And he made her listen to the rest. And he kept telling her, no, I have to give 3 options. We always give options. And he just was completely oblivious at that moment what he was doing right there.
His ears were probably ringing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the customer's looking at me going, what is he doing? I'm trying to buy that one. And we ended up leaving with nothing on that. And she'd have done the whole system. It was fantastic how well he'd earned that sale. And I was just going, oh my gosh. So going out to the truck and chatting with him and just saying, what do you think happened there? he still didn't quite understand it. We had to figure it out later, but that was one of the, it wasn't necessarily funny, but that was an awkward moment to sit there and experience that. I ended up calling the client not long after we left, and I was like, "Hey, just so you know, we're working with him. He's fairly new. Do you want us to get some of this work done? We'd love to come back and take." She's like, "Yeah, come back out and send someone out." But just having to let people awkwardly fail is sometimes the only way to get them to learn. And it was the last step, right? You learned how to finally get that stuff on paper, and now just let the customer choose if they pick one. Just let them pick
awesome.
one.
Alan, did you ever have an opportunity to do ride-alongs?
I have a funny story, Todd, that wasn't actually a ride along. So we had this guy working for us. You probably know Ken, the other Irish guy, superb plumber. He called me one day, and I knew he was at a very, very, very high maintenance customer. This customer was one that we had in our system that be very careful. 2 doctors, husband and wife. They just were high maintenance. So anyway, Ken calls me and said, "Hey, I've sold a water heater. Can you bring it out to me?" We were small, so I was, the president and the water heater deliverer. So I throw the water heater in my truck and I bring it out to him. And Ken is usually all business. So I pull up outside the house. It's the middle of summer. It's probably 120 degrees in the attic, and I'm pulling up. And Ken is leaning on the back of the truck, like having a chat, taking his time, which wasn't like him. And I'm like, this is not like Ken. So we're slowly getting the water heater out of the back of the truck. And I said, "Ken, what's going on? Like, what's the deal?" And he goes, "You know that guy in there?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "He was up in the attic, literally leaning over me while I was diagnosing the water heater. Like, he was on my back." So he said, "When I knew you were here," he said, "you called me, said you were here." He was still in the attic. So he said, "I came down the stairs. He was still in the attic. So I closed the trap door and left him up there." The homeowner.
He
He said he will never, ever, ever work, sit on my back again. And I was like, "You need to go in right now and let that man out of the attic." So Ken goes in, pulls down the trap door, and the guy's like, and Ken goes, "I'm very sorry, sir. I must have accidentally closed the attic." And he goes, "I need to get down to get some air conditioning." And Ken's like, "That's a good idea." So the guy goes down. Ken gets to finish the water heater. And we had to have a chat the next day. I'm like, "Ken, don't ever lock a customer in the attic again." But we never had that problem again with the guy leaning over Ken while he was, and he would only take Ken. He was the only guy that he would let in the house. But Ken, locked him in the attic for about 15 minutes.
Oh, no.
So I'm like, yeah.
All right. I have another funny. I'll keep this family friendly, I promise. But I have another funny Abacus ride along story. I don't know if I've told you this one or not.
I think I might know where you're going with this, Todd. Yeah.
I haven't told this one on the show, have I?
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
All right. So we get this call, right? And it comes up on the technician's phone. He looks at it and he goes, "Oh, this is a good one." He wouldn't tell me why it was a good one. This is a good one. So we pull up to the house and the garage door is open. And the guy's in the garage. He's out there waiting on us. We get out and we walk up, and this entire garage is filled with Playmate posters. Same Playmate. Poster, Playmate of the Year, right? All over the place. And he sort of gives me the eye like, "Look, but don't be obvious," right? So he kind of gives me the wink, and I'm keeping my head down. It's all good. We go everything that the issue was, and it was related to his water heater, and it's all fine. He's like, yeah, come on inside. So we walk inside, there's this large portrait hanging over the fireplace, glamour style. Same Playmate, still nude, but done up glamorous, laid out. And I'm going, okay, now this is getting
weird.
Getting weird. So we're sitting at the counter doing the work. And then his son walks in, a teenager. He's talking to us. And then the mom walks in, which is the Playmate of the Year. That's posted all around the house. And I'm going, okay, it makes sense now, but it's still weird.
Very strange.
Yeah. It's still weird.
Mom is over the fireplace with no clothes on.
Mom's over the fireplace with no clothes. Her poster. I mean, I get it, but your boy, this is weird.
That's weird.
So
and all his friends coming to the house.
For sure.
Yeah.
Sorry, that took an odd turn, but everyone's had an odd experience in a house.
Yeah, for sure.
I did have someone wanted for murder once. You just reminded me. We were on right along. We had a new guy out for the day. We were doing one of those tryouts for the day, see how he does. My spouse showed up to bring us dinner. And she was like,
"This wasn't at Abacus, so let's get that out."
Okay, yeah, let's be clear. This was not at Abacus.
Okay, yeah.
It was a long time ago. It was for another company, name won't be mentioned. And Yeah, but for some reason, my spouse is like, there's something wrong with that character. I don't know what it is. I got the worst vibes, worst vibes. Well, the very next day, his background came in, and sure enough, he had like was wanted for murder, active investigation. We were like, oh my goodness, that was weird. And she was sensing it, like,
That's crazy. So we've told a few horror stories about ride-alongs. We took some hard stances there. Now let's move into training in a more formalized system, because we are teaching adults when we are training. And here's the interesting thing is that not all adults actually like school, especially the ones that are in the trades, right? And I was listening to this gentleman who founded Alpha Schools in Austin. Alpha School is like, it's a very, very high-end school that takes, they call their teachers guides. They're guides. They're not teachers, they're guides. They guide these kids through the education. And the schools are very expensive. They're like $70,000 a year. And the school is only for 2 hours a day.
Wow.
You're just working with the guide for 2 hours a day, and the rest of the time is sort of self-study. And he said the following. He said, the number one criteria for Alpha School isn't can you pay the money. The kids have to be in love with school.
Mm.
If they're not madly in love with school, we won't even let them in. Even if their parents want them to, we're not going to let them in. I don't care how much money they donate. We won't let them in. They got to be madly in love with school. So here comes sort of the first challenge, which is how do you approach technicians, plumbers, electricians who probably are not madly in love with school? I want to hear from both of you, and I'm going to go to you first, Aaron. Do you have an approach that gets a person to fall in love with the training that I don't know? Because I want to hear it if you do it. I'm telling you now, I'm going to steal it.
Mm-hmm.
So you tell me your favorite approach, and it's going to become mine, okay?
Sure.
All right.
I don't know if you haven't heard it yet or not, but for me, it can't be anything like school. It's got to be very engaging. So first thing I tell them is role play's over. We're never doing role play again. That kind of gets their attention. I said, but we're going to skill practice. It's just a different, not a name, but a methodology. So what makes training engage where they want to be there is you shouldn't be standing in front of the room lecturing. You should not be telling them a bunch of concepts. You need to get to the point. Tell them this is what we're learning today and why we're learning it. And the why has to be an impact for them in their career. This is going to be good for you if you learn this because you'll get more yeses and a better paycheck or whatever that looks like. So make sure they know that there's something in it for them to learn it. And then have either yourself or somebody else demonstrate what does correct look like so they can model it, and then have them practice as many reps as possible in that period of time and then give feedback. And when we do the skill practice, we put them in groups of 3. So one person is practicing, one person is being the customer, and the other person is an observer who's giving very objective feedback as soon as that repetition is done. And everybody's engaged in it that way. And the difference of having one person or 2 people in the front of the room feeling awkward role playing while the rest of the room is poking fun at them or falling asleep is they're all on their feet and they're all moving and they're all doing something at the exact same time. So a lot more work gets done and nobody's feeling left out and everybody's engaged. That's my number one favorite way to do it. And then leaving with some sort of what I call an exit ticket. They have to reflect, write something down, and turn it in before they go. It could be anything at all about the practice, the future, a question they have. But think about the concept today, write down something and put it in the bucket. That's an exit ticket. That locks in what they learned. I found that I know that works because people come back to training the next week or the next time and they're excited to do it. They get engaged. That's my favorite technique.
I love the exit ticket. And I'll tell you, I've never used those words at all. That's a great one. I'm lifting that right from you, your exit ticket. That's
Yeah,
really
I
good.
love it. Yeah, yeah.
What about for you, Alan?
So I think, first of all, you have to understand that technicians don't do well in the school environment for the most part. I like to say, like, I didn't love school when I was a kid and I felt like it was something I had to do. So I was always in the half of the class that made the top half possible. So what I like to do, Todd, is I like to find out what kind of a learner are they. And most technicians are visual learners. You have to show it to them, right? They want to see it. So I think understanding that playing audio tapes for or just sound for technicians is not going to work. Lecturing technicians is not going to work. You have to show them what to do. And if that's by role playing, the owner role playing with the trainer or whatever it might be, to show them initially what to do, I think that's very important. The other thing is you have to tell them what's in it for them. Right?
Absolutely.
What is the end result going to be if you learn how to do this properly? And Aaron touched on it a little bit, but we have the three promises at Abacus, right? We're going to make you a better technician, we're going to make you a better human being, and we're going to make you, by the time you leave this company, you're going to be more financially stable than when you joined. And so I think it's pointing out to them that by putting in some effort on the front end and partaking in the training, there's going to be a happy end result for you. And I think that's really important.
That's good. So that WWIFM, what's in it for me? Everyone's tuned into that radio station, and it's great.
Yeah.
Great additions from both of you here. That's a communication technique, and you said the same thing, but in a different way, but which is essentially saying, "Hey, how is this going to improve your life?"
Yeah.
And I think that's a beautiful thing.
That's a key
Sometimes,
tenet. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
That's a key tenet of my philosophy of how to lead. If you don't know what your people want, or in other words, what problems in life they're trying to overcome, you're just telling them what to do all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You're not actually leading them anywhere. Even if you're enrolling them in your company vision, you're still just telling them what to do. But if you know that thing they need, it's like I've had people say, Aaron, I'm trying to change my zip code. Like, I do not want my kids to raise here. I want to move them. That's why I need to learn this skill. When you know emotionally and technically why your people come to work every day and what they need, and you show them that this methodology or this brand or the way we do things is the vehicle to take you to that future. It literally is the way to get there.
Right.
And we can do it together. That's a whole lot different than telling them what to do. And then if they're off track, you're not sitting down giving them a hard time or chewing them out or telling them they did wrong. You're just saying, look, the output or the behavior that you're doing right now, it doesn't align with that future state. Like we said, this was the plan to get there. But right now where you're at, it's not going to get us there. So I need to know, did the goal change, or do you lack commitment, or do you need resources? It's a whole different conversation than you're not doing your job and the numbers are red and all that, right?
Yeah, Alan, I have a question here that I wrote in advance, which is how do you know when you're coaching versus confronting? And you're already sort of talking about that a little bit, which is, coaching is when you're guiding someone to their greatest potential. But sometimes before you can do that, you got to confront them. Whether you got to confront them on their negative headspace or their thoughts or their perspective, their point of view. So for you, what is your technique when you're like, I know if I'm going to have to get through to this person, I'm going to have to confront them in this moment that they're just stuck on? Like, what's your favorite pry open technique when it comes to, confronting someone positively?
I think a lot of the technique is the preparation. Actually, you got to make sure you've built enough trust to support the amount of truth that needs to be delivered. If I just interrupt the pattern of behavior or thought, whatever that is that needs to be confronted, and I haven't established some level of trust with you to where you can receive this information, then a lot of times that truth, if it's too heavy, can damage relationships or cause bad outcomes. So I want to make sure that whatever I need to confront, I have enough credibility or collateral with you to do. But then a lot of times I'm going to ask permission. Hey, I noticed a couple of things that maybe we want to consider. Do you mind if I share them with you? And a lot of times they'll say, why, what is it? But if you can get their initial buy-in first, tell me, then that helps open the door a little bit. But depending on what needs confronting, I'm going to maybe say it differently, but it might just come down to, hey, I need you to understand that you said you were trying to accomplish this. And I'm telling you right now, this behavior or this thought process is a direct conflict of that. If it has to be strict, I'm going to show them very clearly, this is an absolute stopping point to that. That they can't both exist.
Yeah.
Now, it's up to you what to do about that, but that's the reality. This goes here and this goes here. And a lot of times I find not just to tell them what to do, because they're all adults that are going to make up their own mind anyway. So I try to just show them the two choices and what's going to happen. And I think how intense you confront people has to be relative to how much trust have you already earned with them.
So wow, this has been a lot of fun. We've talked about so many wonderful things. We've had deep conversations into role play, and we kicked off our training story there. What I want to do is I want to continue with this. Training is so critical. It is a key system that you should have. It is a key process, if you will. It should have intention behind it. Now, in training, there is a difference between an event versus a system. So I'm going to go to our guest, Aaron, here. How would you define a training event versus a training system?
Right at the top, an event seems like something you experience or you attend. A system could be something that's built in. Maybe it's on the back end. Maybe it's more of a methodology or a process or infrastructure. That's kind of the first thing that comes to mind. A training event, if you're sending your people, a lot of people do outside training. Let me send you to some type of training. Those can be good in a lot of ways because there's peers. You get to see things at a larger scale. Sometimes getting away from the office is kind of fun. You're learning in an environment that's typically kind of engaging and whatnot. There's a lot of good that comes from training events. The training system, in my opinion, is more of about consistency and methodology. So if you have a training system, then you probably have a way to discover what should we train on.
Right.
You have a way to deliver that training to where your people are actually learning something and they're not just hearing or receiving information from you. And that training system always also has a mechanism in to track, is the training working or not? Are we working on the right things, moving the needle in the right direction? So the good thing about systems is they're repeatable, and you can grow them, you can scale them, you can get consistent, predictable results. Where a training event, it's kind of like a come and a go. It's like, wow, that was awesome. I learned so much. Wow, it was a great time. But I don't know how much application always comes with those.
Right.
I think those are the two things that come to mind with those two versions. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's well said. I agree with everything you said. And I'm going to add on for the people that might have like a marketing background, that you have tactics, you have strategies, and then you have overarching campaigns. So a tactic is something that you do that gets a one-time result. It could get more than a one-time result, but it's usually sort of limited. It's kind of like an event. We're going to go watch this 2-day class in Austin, or we're going to travel such and such whatnot, or we're going to pick up this webinar. Cool, you had an event. You could have events internally too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Going to your point on a system, to me, systems are sort of like strategies. And a strategy is part of an overarching campaign. So if we were saying, hey, we want to drive our club membership sales, well, the reason why I don't put the training at the campaign level, I put it as a strategy of that campaign, is because you're going to have marketing, you're going to have material development, you're going to have all of these things that are going to occur. Oh, and also training. So one of the things that I like to share with every business owner that we ever work with is that if you are going to do anything in marketing, before the marketing is released to the public, there should be a training system with some events that go along with it. Otherwise, you're putting your people at a spot to where they could be blinded by an offer they never even heard of, and a client's asking about this coupon or this special you got.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I like your answer. I think it's really good.
How often do you train the team, Aaron, and what does that rhythm look like?
You train until until the metric improves. How often? Well, that depends on how big of the gap is, I suppose.
Right.
I think when it comes to questions like that, we need to look at what's the minimum you should, because some people don't train enough.
Right.
In my opinion, you need one. Well, first of all, there's a big difference between a meeting and a training.
Absolutely.
So some managers think we trained, we had our meeting. Well, no. You delivered information, and most of it was demotivating. That's not a training. That's a meeting. So the training should be completely focused on the skill application. So how often? I think at a minimum, you should have your team training once per week on things that happen in the customer's home that produce customer service results and results of success and profit. Minimum. Overtraining, some people train every day, and they think, man, we're just going to keep going. I don't know that that's as effective. Maybe you can do multiple days a week, but if you're going to do multi-days per week, I would do kind of an every other day routine.
Right.
That way they can digest it and practice it and get some experience with it, and then come back in maybe 2 days later and share some feedback. How did it go? What happened?
I think part of the problem, Aaron, is they have to implement the training.
Oh, huge.
Implementation. I always say there's a disease in our industry called FTI, failure to implement. They know what to do, they just don't do it, right? So implementation, and then they procrastinate about, I won't try it on this call or try it on the next call. And I heard a saying a while back is that procrastination is the assassination of your destination. Like you won't get to where you want to go if you procrastinate, right?
That's good.
And it's just, but you can train and you can teach, but if you don't implement the training, the tech doesn't implement the training in the field, nothing's going to happen, which is why I think oversight is needed. And programs like Gorilla are so great because you can listen to what, if you're not personally going to go to the call with the tech, you can listen and see, has he implemented the training?
Yes. It's so
Makes
true.
sense. Yeah.
Let me see if I remember that. Procrastination is the assassination of your destination.
Yeah.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah. I heard it online a while ago, and I went, man, when you think about that quote, it's so true. Like, you're never going to get to where you're going. You're going to kill your dream if you procrastinate.
I agree.
Yeah.
And you're so right. One of the biggest mistakes people would make when they invest in training is they'd say, hey, Coach Aaron, we did this, a year ago, 6 months, and the guys just, I don't know, they're just not doing it or whatever. One of the biggest mistakes is they think if they send them to an event or have a program in-house, that it's just going to magically go do it now.
Yeah.
And they don't do the implement. The biggest thing you can do for a successful training is practice it as fast as possible after the training
and
event.
as often as possible.
And as often.
Yeah.
You got to do it quickly, and you got to make it okay for the people you're training to go do it wrong right now.
Yeah.
Because they leave that thinking, man, I got to be just like the guy that came in town. They're so good at it. And they don't feel confident, so they won't even try it, thinking that when I'm confident, I'll do it. But you're never going to gain the confidence because they're not even trying it.
Yeah.
So I want to encourage them, go mess it up right away. Just go mess it up as fast as you can and go try 100 times, but start tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, I don't have to go do it perfect. So that's the trick. If you're going to do training, implement the skills quickly to practice and go do it right now, and it's okay. And then keep doing it consistently.
Yeah, exactly.
And then if you measure the outcome, did the KPI improve after all that effort? No? Oh, well, then what do we need to fix? Or yeah, it's improving. Awesome. Let's move on to the next skill.
Well, I think you just answered my next question, which was how do you measure whether training is working or not, right?
Oh, yeah.
All those things, right? Absolutely.
Yeah, you have to look at the end result. You shouldn't be training. I have a disagreement where some people will issue I don't know if you have one, Todd, so forgive me if you do. Here's your 26-week training program. I'm like, that's not 26 weeks. That's 26 topics.
Right.
How do you know on 13th week if we're going to be struggling with what we need to be doing from second week? Or maybe I need to stick on the second topic for 6 weeks. I don't know, because you got to work on the right skill that improves a behavior that gets the result that moves the needle.
So I'll tell you some of our philosophies here at Service Excellence, and I'll be the very first one to tell you that we've made every mistake that you can make in training. We're a professional training company. We're making all the mistakes. We've done a lot of really good things, and we are steadily and constantly improving. So I'm going to give you the very first mistake that we make as a training organization, that we are working very hard not to make that mistake anymore, which is to look at a training as a time event. Education is not a timed event. Education is a result event. So this is what I mean by this. And Alan, this is new even from when we worked with you guys. We worked with you guys way back when. But there's a habit for a teacher, a trainer, a coach, whatever you want to call them, to go, I have good information that I want to deliver, and I've really spent 4 hours writing a lesson. By the way, in case anyone is curious, the average lesson really done by a human, not by AI, takes about 4 hours of thinking through and development to deliver 1 hour in front of a person, which is a lot of the reasons why people don't want to do it. It's like 4 hours to deliver one. Yeah. But our coaches will work really hard. They're very proud of it. Like, boom, we delivered the lesson. At first, that lesson's like, hey, it took me 4 hours. I want to reinforce this lesson. But then after you have 13 years worth of lessons, the lessons don't hold the value to the coach as the guy that wrote it.
Yeah.
Because he didn't sweat over it for 4 hours. I did.
Mm-hmm.
So it becomes a time sequence. I'm going to give you a new lesson today, and I'm going to give you a new lesson next week, and I'm going to give you a new lesson next week. And I'm telling my coaches, I'm like, no, we're not doing that. It's a mastery event. You give them this lesson today. And if this lesson was created from a deep conversation with the business owner before the lesson, which we do in our quarterly planning, in our quarterly planning, we say, what's the destination? What are we trying to accomplish? What are the things that we're trying to do in the next quarter? Now that we know that, here's your lesson. Oh, guess what? Everyone sucks at it still. We're going to do it again. We're going to do it again. When are we going to move off that lesson? When the measurements have indicated that we are succeeding at it.
Yeah.
And that's really, that's hard. Now, going back, it's not hard for us. It's hard for a group if not everyone's moving at the same speed and pace. Now, if we look at education, here's the thing. I can't fight what is the reality of education. And of all the things I've chose to make my professional career, I've probably made my career one of the hardest things on the planet because as an organization, we are educating people. We're going to do it the right way. We're not going to make easy button promises. We're not going to rip people off, which is to say, we're basically saying we have one of the hardest things on the planet to sell, which is improving people and actually doing it the right way. Most people don't want to buy that. They want to buy easy buttons that are fast and cheap. And lie to me, please. Please lie to me and take all of my money. We're not going to do that. So if we just look at the reality of education, especially in adults, what we know is that what is heard, you only retain about 5%. So to Aaron's point, they got to practice. What you do, the moment you start doing, that retention goes from 35 to 55%. But that's within a short window of time. A week from now, that can be gone again. It can be back to 5%. So this is what we have learned, and this is like one of our predicated principles that we can't always get, and we won't take someone on if they don't. If I were to say, hey, I would work with anyone out here today, who is the person that's in the classroom when we're done? And what are their rhythms of reinforcement after we're done? And it doesn't have to be an hour every day. But all it takes is a small section in your 15-minute huddle where go around, give me the major thing that you learned from yesterday. Boom, 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 boom. Bring me one more new thing today. And you don't have to go around to everyone. You can just pick one person. But if you're reinforcing that 4 days of the weeks that we're not there, what happens is it says to the people, oh, they're serious.
Right, exactly.
They're serious. So you got to have the inspection. But here's the other part, going back to what we talked about earlier, which is at Alpha School, where they only do 2 hours of guided education a day with their students. But those students are often doing 2 to 4 hours of self-education on their own. They're actually studying it, and they can hit mastery levels by grade in about 20 hours. 20 hours. But the deal is that's 20 hours of guided education if those students are putting in 40 to 60 hours of actual education. Now, an average plumber, electrician, HVAC tech isn't going to do that, and we know that, unless we change the game. What do you mean change the game? You have the training lesson. Everyone's behind this. Today, go practice it. You actually get to practice this lesson today. Now we have ability to see if they're practicing the lesson. But if the service manager isn't reminding them every day in some small fashion, hey, this is a lesson that we learned yesterday. Remember this one segment. What are you going to do today? Hey, how'd you apply it yesterday? If they're not being reminded that we're serious about this lesson, you get to the end of the week and you've wasted your money.
Yeah.
If it's being so from our standpoint, Aaron, I think minimum once a week is also good. And I think you're right, which is it could be a lot more depending upon the who. But I do think that some level of constant reinforcement, and it doesn't have to be come to the classroom. It could be reminders. It kicks into the same repetition. And the job of sleep, the biological job of sleep, is to clear adenosine and other chemicals from the brain so that you can rest and reset. And unless you have a reason to hang on to this information because it was drilled in by adrenaline, it was a life-saving event, or it's drilled in by habit, the brain is going to erase it. It's not even the fault of the student. We have to bring it to them constantly. So I get really passionate.
If I was to do it all again, Todd, I would take a key statement from the training and add it to the dispatch when
That's all you have to do.
When the call has been dispatched to the tech. So he sees, Mrs. Jones, 123 Main Street, leaking toilet, options. Don't forget to offer options or whatever it might be, and just keep hitting them with it. I mean, at one stage I was running prior to Abacus, was running the company, we were having safety issues. We put think safety on the driver's door. Every time he opened the door, he saw think safety. Safety went up, accidents went down. Like, it's amazing the psychology of just reminders. Like, it's just amazing. So anyway.
It says it's important to us, right?
Yeah, it does.
I never thought about the dispatch. I was thinking in the huddle,
But the huddle's great. But
No,
I
no,
think
dispatch
putting
is
in
better.
Dispatch is good. too.
Dispatch is way, 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 way
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
That's genius, actually. It's like, well, you could give the dispatcher.
I'll go home now. It's my good idea for the day, Todd. Okay.
That was really good. No,
Thanks, Alan. Glad you stopped by.
All right. Yeah. Here you go.
Appreciate you.
that was, I mean, that's beyond excellent. Like, press play is so simple, right?
Mhm.
Prepare. Are you prepared today?
Yeah.
Press play. How's your mindset?
Yeah. I mean,
Is your truck clean?
it's just constantly. I mean, I go back to think of something as simple as selling Boyle One. We would sell Boyle One. We were the top sellers of Boyle One in the country for 7 years straight. But we would at least once a quarter have a Boyle One training session, and then we would remind them via text. Every time they got a stoppage, don't forget Boyle One.
That's good.
It was the highest gross margin item we had on the truck on a percentage basis.
Well, you guys were sending people on cruises.
Yeah, we
you
were.
doing
Yeah,
raffle
we
tickets.
we were doing all kinds of stuff. But I'm a big believer in reminders, Todd, because the techs have 1,000 things to remember. It's
You
a
know,
hard job.
Bio One was one of the biggest paradigm shifts I ever had in my entire life. I don't know if I've told you this story. So many experiences from training with your people and riding with them. Aaron, I'll tell you, and Alan can listen. I'm riding with, I think it was Randy Watson, and we have a leak call. We get to the call. Homeowner thinks they have a leaky pipe. They have an overflowing condensate line, and they caught it early. So Randy goes up and realizes it's the condensate line, and goes, "Oh, okay, I can fix this." And he goes down and he sells a condensate clear and Bio One, and this was in 2012 or 13.
Mhm.
And I'm HVAC, right? You know what I'm thinking? A drain clear. Sometimes you just do that for free. This is going to be $97 in a diagnostic, and we're gone. He comes down and sells $387 plus dispatch, and I'm going, oh. And the homeowner was thrilled that not only was the drain going to be cleared, they were going to put some bio drain. I think he used bio. He used something in there.
It might have been.
It might have been drain tabs.
Yeah, it might have been something else, because Boyle One's not recommended for condensate.
It could have
Yeah,
been drain tabs.
Yeah.
He added some chemical additive. I remember him going pfft into the top of it. And it was like a $500 ticket by dispatch and everything when it was done. And I'm sitting here going, oh, duh, I've been doing this wrong the whole time. Because sometimes you need the outside perspective.
Mhm.
The homeowner absolutely felt like it was a great value. Randy felt good about the offer. Everyone felt good about the offer. The only person that's sitting here going, wait a minute, was the HVAC knucklehead that was charging $97 to do that same thing.
Yeah.
Right? So now I threw in a perspective story on training, but those type of stories can be added to training, because what is training if not a paradigm shift?
Mhm.
And how many times is one of the biggest paradigm shifts that you have to overcome with your electricians, your plumbers, your HVAC people, the fact that they come from a place that charged so much less, and they're going, how do you do this? So that's a question that I'm going to throw out here for you, which is, what is your number one paradigm shifter for a technician who is hung up, technician, salesperson, whoever, they're hung up on the fact that they're now at a company that is charging a price that is profitable and keeps the business running, and it's 2 times as much as the previous place that they were at.
I found that the real objection there that they'll never say, just from experience, is that I believe it's their own personal self-worth that needs to be built up first.
I agree.
I don't think they think we charge too much. I think they go, even if they're not saying the words, I could never be worth that. They don't understand their own value. And that's a big part of what I try to do, is help people change that paradigm right there. So I'm going to get into them first and let them know how valuable they truly are. Not as employees. Yeah, that's cool. But as humans, as members of the community, as leaders in their families, like, they need to see their true value. And then we can start talking about money, right? And if you want to be more tactical about it, then you got to do the stuff you always teach, is this is what it costs to run a business, and here's why, and things like that. But getting them to stand a little taller in the morning and go, man, I'm worth it. What I got them saying is, I would always get them saying really loudly, I am worth every penny I charge. I'm worth every penny I charge. I'm worth every penny I charge. Because if I can get them to see their worth, It don't matter what's on the book. It makes zero difference. And if they want to go give it away half price, then they're telling themselves at that moment, I'm
not worth
worth
it, yeah.
50% less. Oh, you want to give away free parts? I am not even worth the cost of that part. I put it on them to be that value because of what that money represents later. And that's I guess the other half of the paradigm shift is it's not the money. The money's a tool. What are you using the tool for?
They've got to believe. They've got to believe in the product and the service that they're providing, Aaron. A quick story about Boyle One, Todd. We had a guy, and this guy doubted everything you told him, just doubting Thomas. And I was personally giving a lesson on Boyle One. We were small at the time, 4 or 5 trucks. And Gary comes in after the meeting and he said, hey, I think that Boyle One stuff is complete hocus pocus. And I said, no, it's really not. It works, And he goes, well, he pulls a nipple, like a 6-inch long, 3/4-inch nipple, all scaled up inside. And he said, well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to see if it works on this. Now, it won't work on a nipple that's badly corroded. It's meant for fats, oils, and greases. So he said, I'm going to pour some into that. It was a Friday morning. I'm going to pour some into that, and I'm going to check it on Monday morning when I come in. And I was about to launch into, it's not going to work, but I let him do it. I drove into the shop Saturday morning, and I cleaned that nipple out with a rat tail foil. Like, I spent hours on it. I mean, I had that thing gleaming on Monday morning, and I had all the little scale on the floor beside it, like it had bubbled up out of it. And I said nothing. Gary comes in Monday morning, goes straight to the nipple in the corner. The nipple is gleaming clean. And he comes into me and goes, that shit really works. And I said, I told you, man, don't put it in the potable water system. It's only for drains, Gary, but I'm telling you, it works. It's unbelievable stuff. And he was one of our top sellers of Boyle One. So sometimes you got to cheat a little bit to make them believe.
That's hilarious. That's good.
That's
Yeah.
good.
This isn't quite a funny story as that, but you know David Johnson, right?
Yes, I do, yeah.
So he sells a couple products. One is an entire whole house tank filtration system, which we've had on our house here. I think we've been in this house for 9 years. And he also sells, is it called Flowtech?
Yeah, Flowtech. It's Plumber's Choice is his company, and Flowtech is one of the products. And he also has a whole house carbon system, I think, yeah.
So I have the whole house carbon system. I have the Flowtech. And I like David, so I said, yeah, I'll give it a go. Now, my house prior to this had a water softener, but I just don't like the way softened water feels. It's not comfortable to me. And we have ultra hard water. Like it's Texas, aquifer water. It's limestone rocks. And I'm going, okay. Well, we remodeled our bathroom, and when we did, we wanted to change the king valve. Is that what it's called, Alan, at the tub?
Yes, yeah.
So, because we wanted to have a different set in there. And I'm like, well, this is going to tell the tale, right? This is a high flow unit. We take bathtubs, baths every night. And I'll go, all right, we're about to see. So when the plumber comes out and he cuts it off, I said, hey, can I have that? And he gave it to me. And I got my light and I looked in it, and it's freaking clean as a whistle. Spotless. And I'm telling you, if it didn't work and I was a plumber and I saw it, I'd say this is a stupid piece of trash. This is a ripoff. But almost 10 years of insanely hard water.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, Aaron, it's clean as a freaking whistle. And I took a video of it and pictures of it. And I didn't send it to David, but I have it because I'm like, a plumber's not going to believe this.
Well, I'll tell you, like, this is not an ad for David, but he knows water really well, and his products work.
They do.
We've used them for quite some time. So, I'd recommend David and his products highly. Very good.
Yeah,
very, very good.
Especially if you don't like that feel.
Yeah.
Now, just like he would tell you, we're off topic here a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think the point is that, and I agree, whether it's self-worth, and this is how I'm going to bring this full circle. You sort of tricked your guy in a funny, lighthearted way.
Yeah, but I mean, sometimes you got to make them believe, Todd.
Right?
Yeah.
But that's the idea. It's like, how do you make them believe?
Right.
And for hard-headed knuckleheads like me, sometimes how you make them believe is, here, this is 9 years later on your home, and look. Now, I still believed him, but I believed him from a we'll find out one day perspective.
Yeah.
And almost 10 years later, finding out, you're going, holy crap, this is amazing. So there will be a moment, and I'm sure you've had it, right? Where you build them up for the self-worth and they're kind of like, but then they make that first sale after the training and they come back. They're so excited. Like, I got to tell you what's happened.
Yep.
And all of a sudden the belief starts kicking in.
Yep.
And then it rolls and it rolls and it rolls.
That's the tactical reason why I say after you've been to some training, as fast as possible, put it in the field, put it into action.
Yeah.
The faster they can get that first win, the better.
Let's go to Alan's question that he asked, and I want you to go back to it, Alan. I think it's worth revisiting one more time.
So how do you measure whether training is working?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, if you know in advance what you're training for, if you've chosen it intentionally, our closing percentage is down. We need to get more yeses. Okay. You train on a skill that should build rapport or be more convincing or handle objections, whatever you're going to train on to get more yeses, then watch the metric again. Is it going up with our effort? If it's not, either they're not doing the training or you're training on the wrong thing. So you got to figure that out. And if we're following a process and we're watching them and we know they're trying, we might just be training on the wrong thing.
Yeah.
The other thing is, if you throw a contest out there and just bribe people to sell more bio ones or widgets or something, they might temporarily go sell a bunch, but not actually get any better at it. They just did it more. They want that result, and then the contest goes away, and then it just comes back down.
Yeah.
So it's not that we trained on anything. We just bribed them to go do something, and then they lost interest. So making sure that we're effective with what we do improves the number. That's, to me, the most important.
Yeah.
So a combination of ethical bribes to get them going, but then it's got to be belief that keeps them going.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk a little bit about the contest side of things, because contests do work, right?
Oh, yeah.
How have you seen training connected with contests or other forms of ethical bribes that drive performance in a company?
Everybody has to be able to win the contest. That's the number one game changer for all of it. When I was at the Big M company, I don't know if you say brands on the show, but
You can.
Gus Santos,
yeah,
thank
we're
you, brother. I
fans.
really appreciate you, Gus. You helped change my life.
Now, we
Thank you.
talked about Gus in a lot of episodes.
Thank you, Gus.
We're big fans of Gus.
Yeah, so when I was over at Milestone, I had a goal to build a training program. But obviously, I got to get in a truck first and put some street credibility out there and show the technicians, look, I'm not just the guy making this stuff up. So we did, and I got my name on the wall, and I told them that's not what I wanted. I wanted other people to be on the wall. They had this wall in the hallway with the photo of the top producer of each category. And I said to him one day, it wasn't Gus, it was the people. I'm just like, this is an awesome recognition system. You got this one winner here. What about the 40 losers? And they're like, what do you mean? I said, well, that guy's picture's up there 8 out of 9 or 10 times. What about all these losers over here? They're like, what do you mean? I said, well, that's how they start to feel. If the one person who's always the best always gets the accolades, they just feel like the losers. And they're like, wait a minute, so what do you recommend? I said, well, we build contests on levels and everybody can win. So if you set a level of everyone who gets 5 more club memberships this week gets a prize. Well, there's no one person that got 5. Anybody who gets 5 can win a prize. So I don't have to quit trying because you're always the prize winner.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll go for it. Well, then maybe they say, well, what about the guy that always wants to be the winner? I said, well, you just have another level. So if you get 10 of those widgets, we'll get an extra prize. So maybe you have third level. And then you have that, what I call like the accelerator gift for that one person that just never wants to take his foot off the gas. Okay, we'll have an extra one special thing for that number one person that wants to go there. And I think that changed contests. Well, I don't think. That absolutely changes contests for people. Everybody should be able to compete instead of giving up because you're always going to win it and I never will. Then it's more of a team effort.
What do you think about that, Alan?
Yeah, we always had that philosophy. So, back to when we would give a prize away for the Bio One competition, what we said was, look, instead of giving it to the top seller, every time you sell a bottle, you got a ticket. And then at the Christmas party, we draw out a ticket. So potentially you could win the cruise for selling one bottle of Bio One. So, maybe it's a little unfair on the guy that sold 300 bottles, but he was well compensated for selling them to start with. So we tried to always keep it interesting, to keep everyone involved from the first day of the contest to the last day of the contest. So you're exactly right, Aaron. But I do think gamifying business is a very smart thing to do because most of your people are competitive. They want to win. So give them something to win. Yeah. A big believer in it.
Yeah. And it's part of training. Because
is.
most of the time those fun events are done in a training class.
I actually think it's unethical to have a contest for something if you haven't trained them how to sell it. Start in the first place. Don't just dangle something in front of them that they don't know how to win. Train them first, then give them an incentive for And sometimes, make the prizes outrageous. Like we've given away, PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, whatever the latest one is, to, in competitions, because we know techs really want that stuff. So ask them what they want and then give it to them for increased performance.
Absolutely. I think it's a good call.
We've all heard the old story where an owner says, what if I train them if they leave? And the other owner says, what if you don't train them and they stay? So what do you say to leaders who claim they're too busy to train?
Oh, too busy to train?
Yeah.
They don't have a training or a time problem. They have a priority problem. First of all, we all get 24 hours. They're spending it in the wrong place.
Right.
You got to train them so they can do better, which naturally is going to make your time more flexible, because you're not probably cleaning up a bunch of messes and managing a bunch of tasks that wouldn't even be an issue if your people were trained properly. So the training is part of the fix to the time problem also.
I'd be starting to ask myself, should they be in a leadership position if they say they're too busy to train,
Yeah, no, that's a question. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
The phrase I like that's very similar is, train them. I think it's Richard Branson that says it, from Virgin Mobile or Virgin Airlines. He says, train them so well that they can work anywhere.
Right.
But treat them so well that they'll never leave you.
They never want to go.
And then, okay, well, that sounds nice too, but what does that actually mean? It goes back to my philosophy in leading. You got to know your people's vision. What is that future state they're trying so bad to be part of? And how everything we do, excellence. I love that our brand at Abacus is that excellence is our minimum standard.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're trying to do everything with excellence, show them that by doing that, they can have that thing. They can become that thing or that person that they want in the future. And then it's the training is just the how. It's not really a big thing anymore. It's just what we do, because we're going that way.
Yeah.
And we're going together, and that's what we all wanted. So whatever this is just part of the process. That's what's really happening. And that to me is what really gets people going.
Love it.
Yeah, I agree. So here's the last sort of thought that I want you to confront, which is the business owner that thinks to themselves, I'm not going to train because that's a cost. They don't see it as an investment. They purely see it as an expense.
Yeah. Well, it's the same thing as time. You don't have any money. That's why you should train. You don't have any time. That's why you should train. You're all stressed out because your people aren't working. That's why you train. Like, training is just part of what you do. If it would become a cost if they don't reinforce the training, because the opposite is also true. Hey, I've got money. I'm going to buy training. That's going to fix our numbers. No, that was an event. That was something that happened. You being in there in the morning with them and being in the field and showing them and helping them, that's what makes training an investment, is sticking with it. You can't measure the return on that kind of investment. Like, what, you pay X dollars for the week? Here's your check. That's easy to count. But how many lives did you change over the course of a year or 2 years or 5 years when that training continues to be utilized? So no, the return on training is immeasurable.
All right. Have you seen those little internet things where they ask someone like roast beef sandwich or hamburger?
Yes.
And then they pick one?
Sure.
All right. So do a new visual brand or train your people?
Do a rebrand?
Yeah.
Or change your people, or train your people? Well, I guess it depends on, I have to know a little more about their company, but train.
All right. Do the new marketing whiz bang, whatever it is, or train your people?
Yes. Train. But if you're going to market, you better train, like he said already. You better know what you're doing out there, but maybe you don't need more calls. Why you need more marketing? You're not even capitalizing on the calls we're giving you. Train, practice, let's go.
Just recruit a whole bunch of new people or train your people?
Train.
The hair just stood up on the back of my neck, Aaron, because as a leader, I don't know how many times I've heard, look, we just don't have enough calls.
Oh.
I'm like, your closing rate is 38%. Like, we have enough calls. You're not being effective. Like,
Yeah.
you need to do more with what we have. And the only way we do more with what we have is reinforce the training, keep training, keep learning. If we're not busy, what should we do? Train. Because when we train, we get better, we close more. Because I think over the last, I'd say, excluding 2024, maybe 2023, but from 2022 back, most home service companies, their technicians were not selling, they were taking orders.
Mm-hmm.
But after that, when the economy started to turn, they now have to be salespeople, and we're seeing closing rates going down across the board because they're not trained salespeople. You know, they're relying on experience, which may or may not be good. So I absolutely think that before you start spending gobs of more money on marketing, let's fix what's broken inside if the call center conversion rate is 60-70% on incoming calls, that's a huge problem.
Yeah.
Because 30% of the people calling in for service are not booking a call. That's like, to me, that's the equivalent to the building being on fire. If your technicians are closing less than 50%, freaking building's on fire. Like, anyway, don't get me going. I could be here till 10 o'clock today.
You're so accurate.
You're 100% spot on, and you said something, and something came up earlier that stimulated this thought, but there wasn't a right moment to say it, which is everyone's going, well, the economy. And I get it. But I mean, if we look at the economy, and the main measurement of the economy for most people is how is the stock market doing? We hit a record high yesterday.
Yeah.
But you're not wrong. I had my perspective changed on this. I want to share this with you guys. And I think these two words really tell the tale right here. It's not the economy. It's something else. It's consumer confidence.
That's right. That's right.
And right now we are at a ultra low area of consumer confidence because most of the economy is played by top tier people that have more money than us. And if we were lucky enough to put our money in early, we're playing with them. But consumer confidence is played by everybody. And consumer confidence is definitely played by our technicians, our salespeople, and our homeowners. And in a world where consumer confidence is the issue, how do you fix consumer confidence? You do that by fixing provider confidence. You do that through training.
I was just going to say the answer is technician confidence.
It is.
Make them confident in what they're selling, what they're delivering, the solutions they're offering, and keep them well trained, and the problem goes away to a certain degree. Yeah.
If you treat their communication skills or their sales skills, the other things they do besides turning wrenches, as we like to call it, if you just imagine that as a trade also, and relate it to the amount of practice and testing and experience required to be a good, safe plumber, and you show them that this is just another skill that is also certifiable, and they learn to do it as if their license depends on it, it becomes a craft also.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be sell more. You can say the art of questioning somebody to get to know them is something you can learn. And that's just as important as the way you use your meter over here to detect for hazards. Like that's a skill and a tool you must have. And if you can just show them again how these things work very well together, it doesn't have to be, we're not selling, we're educating, which is true, but kind of sounds like a Jedi trick, you know. But these skills of communicating and being persuasive are necessary to be good at your job, because homeowners are at risk. Now, if you run a commercial site and you're putting in this plumbing and you know that water is going to get in someone's spot that's going to make them sick, you're not going to dance around the issue. You're going to fix it with enthusiasm. But for some reason, when we go in a customer's house, because there's a dollar sign attached, we're uncomfortable talking about it. So they just need to take the sale out of the deal and say you owe them the responsibility to be good at communicating that, so they truly get it. Yeah. And then it becomes more of a, man, I really am an expert at this stuff. I'm good at this. That's the confidence. They can actually communicate it.
You know, Lee Iacocca, the guy that designed the first Mustang and then went on to be the CEO of Dodge and really turned them around, he nailed it with his quote that you can be brilliant technically, but if you can't communicate that brilliance, your technical skills won't get you anywhere. And that's what we're talking about here.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. These guys are well deserving. They're brilliant. The communication skills just helps them bridge that gap of confidence.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And get them those wins quick, man. Go help them get something right and get that little result that makes them go, whoa, that worked. Did you see that? I think I can do this. They just need a couple of those, and then they're going to start taking a lot more action.
Here's what you took away from this, I hope, and it's the following. Most companies don't actually have training problems. They have implementation problems. So Aaron said it best. He said, train until the metrics improve. That means no more checking boxes, no more. We've already covered that. You train until the behavior changes, and you measure it every single week. Alan called it FTI, failure to implement. And he's right. We don't fail because we don't know what to do. We fail because we don't do what we know. So what's the answer? Consistency, reinforcement, and real-time feedback. And of course, belief. Belief that your people are worth the time it takes to train them the right way. When confidence drops, skill rises to meet it. And that's why training isn't an expense. It's the engine of confidence, performance, and profit. So keep training, keep reinforcing, and as always, do it the right way even when it's hard. That's the $100 million mindset.
Hey, thanks so much for watching the show this week. Head over to toddliles.com/mindset to get the show notes. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and follow so you never miss a new episode of the show. And if you enjoyed this episode, then share it. It really helps us get the word out. You've been watching the $100 Million Mindset with Alan O'Neill and Tangerine Tornado Todd Liles.